Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Rajas of the Ganges, the Dice Charmers. So this is the roll and write version of the original Rajas of the Ganges, which was a worker placement game that uses dice to do everything, and much like the original Rajas, this one is designed by Marcus and Inca Brand. However, this one is a lot shorter. This one only takes 30 to 45 minutes, and this one accommodates 2 to 5 players. And unlike the original, this one doesn't take place on a big board and has a tons of dice. This one only takes place on a single sheet of paper. Of course, each player will have a pen, and you're going to have 8 dice, which is going to determine all the actions you can do throughout the game. So this is a dice drafting game, and the one thing I really do love about this game that I'm so happy that they kept is the way you win the game. So in this game, it has a real unique winning system. So you have 2 types of currency in the game. So you've got your prestige points and you have coins, so your currency, basically your money. And the idea is that you want to try and collect as many coins and of these prestige points as you can. And the moment they cross over with each other is the moment you're going to win. So it really is a race to get to those 2 different things crossing over to trigger that end of the game. So there's a lot going on here, and it pretty much has the full scope of the original Rajas of the Ganges, but just on a bit of paper. So the idea of this, and much like a lot of other roll and write games, is that you want to use these actions to combo off each other and tick things off and get as many points as you can. And you're going to do that by drafting these dice. So you've got 4 different types of dice here. So you've got the ones that have the roads on. You've got the ones with these different kind of noble families on from the palace. You've got these weird symbols here that relate to this river track, and you've got these dice with goods on as well. And all you're going to do in turn, the first player is going to pick which dice they want. So let's just say, for example, they took this dice here. They'll put it on their little platform here. And the other one is going to go onto the elephant, which makes it pretty hard for the other players to access that dice. However, they can do it by spending karma points. So karma points is a quite nice way to re-roll some dice and to gain access to that dice that was blocked off. But let's have a look at all the different things you can do on the actual sheet here and which dice you're going to need to activate them. So I suppose one of the main features of the game is this landscape here with all these different buildings on. So you've got different types of buildings. I think there's 3 different types, and there's also these tents which relate to this part of the game here, which is when you're going to collect goods. So as I said, some of these dice correlate to goods, and whenever you take those dice, you're going to have a look at the goods on them, and you're going to circle the number of ones you've drafted. So as you can see here, if I took 2 rugs, I would circle these 2 rugs. And that just shows that I have those rugs. It doesn't mean that I've sold them yet for coins. And that is going to relate to a different one of these types of these buildings. So these tents, whenever you cross through them or draw these roads through them by drafting these dice, so you've got like straight lines here, you've got these L-shaped ones, and you even have these 2 half roads, which you can kind of divide up how you like. So whenever you draw through these tent buildings, you can sell either, so 1 to 3 of the same type of good, or maybe 1 to 3 of different types of goods, and then you're going to actually cross them off. And when you cross them off, you're going to have a look at which column you've crossed them off in, and take that amount of coins and tick them off your track here. And as you can see as well, sometimes when you hit certain points on the coins track, you're going to get different bonuses and benefits. And also, when you tick off a whole bunch of these goods, you're going to get another benefit by ticking off the ones below that tent. And they all do different things, all relating to different parts of the sheet here. So the nobles, or these ones in the palace here, let you do different things, and again correlate to these dice here. So you've got all different faces on them. This one here basically lets you take any of the other nobles. This one here lets you move down the river track 1 or 2 spaces and get the bonuses along the way. This one here lets you sell 2 different types or any 2 goods. And again, if you get these columns, you get additional bonuses such as getting more roads or selling goods or more of these prestige points. The chap here with the mustache, he gets you a coin, and he lets you basically take one of these scroll actions, and the scroll relates to this part here, and basically that means that you're going to ramp up the scoring you get through crossing through these certain types of buildings. So as you can see here, these triangle types of buildings initially, or in fact all of them, start with being worth just 1 point each when you draw a line through them, like I have here. But the more you invest in this scroll sheet, you can potentially get 2 or 3 points for each of these buildings you cross through, starting from the moment you cross it off. And whenever you get those columns, so if you get all the 2s ticked off, then you get to take a good dice of your choice, or even take a palace action if you get all your 3s crossed off. So you've got this one here that just lets you take 2 half roads and divide them up how you like, and this one here that actually lets you go backwards on the river track. And that river track is what the last 2 dice correspond to. So you've got all these different symbols on them relating to all these different points on the river, and you're going to be sailing from left to right, and depending on the symbol you take, it's going to be where you're going to stop. So as you can see on this example, I've gone quite far down the river, taking all these bonuses along the way. But if you go to this chap, you can actually jump back on yourself and go to the spots that you've missed out on, in case you missed something that you really wanted. And they're going to let you do lots of different things as well, like such as getting new roads, new scroll actions, new points, taking goods, selling goods, all that kind of thing that you'd probably expect to see. And that's pretty much how the game's going to play out until, as I said, the currencies cross over. And that's pretty much how it plays out. So it's going to be a dice drafting game, and as soon as somebody takes the dice, obviously it's going to leave the other players without the option to take that particular die from the pool. And basically, once everyone's taken their turn, it's going to go to the next player, and you're going to go again. Keep taking actions until somebody wins. But I suppose let's talk about how I feel about Raja of the Ganges, the Dice Charmers. So first off, the one thing I took away from this game more than anything is the actual potential to combo different actions off each other, which is what you really come to these kind of games to experience. And this probably is one of the best examples of that I think I've ever seen. So if you start stringing actions together, such as maybe drawing through towns here, and you can get to these endpoints on the map. If you ever touch these ends, you get the different bonuses that can maybe let you go down the river, and then you can go down the river, and the river might say take a palace action, then you can take a palace action, and then you can do that, and maybe on the same turn you'll get a whole column done, and then you can maybe do another road and get another action. So you can really string these together and make these huge domino effects and have very powerful and meaty turns with a single die draft. So I really do love that. And again, if you really do come to these kind of games for that, then this is going to leave you more than satisfied. And when you do pull off those big moves, it does feel like you've made really big waves with this game, and I absolutely find that fascinating. And when you do pull something like that off, it does make you feel really clever, even if it wasn't your initial intention. So I really do like the decision space here, and I love the way it all ties back to a single draft of a die, and obviously all the fallout from that just cascades from that single draft. So in terms of the mechanisms, it's so pure. Just take one and potentially think about not only what's going to help you, but potentially help other people as well, or at least try to hinder them from getting those die. But yeah, I love the way that it all just falls out and all things just trigger off each other, and it's so easy to explain into other players what you're physically doing. So yeah, very simple in terms of explanation, but the intricacies and the fallout of those actions are pretty meaningful and can, as I said, can cascade quite strongly. In terms of the time investment, this game does take 30 to 45 minutes to play, depending on that player count. In a 2 or 3 player game, I think you can pretty comfortably get this done in half an hour. And I think the amount of game here in terms of that ratio is pretty strong. This is, I would say, pretty much the whole experience of the original Raja of the Ganges just on a piece of paper. So I think it's done a great job of shedding off all the surplus meat on the game that didn't need to be there, in terms of the components and the stuff like that. Yeah, of course that does take away from some of the kind of tactility and the presence of the game, but the actual core game and the core decisions are all here. And in fact, I actually prefer this one to the original Rajas of the Ganges, because I thought that game was very good. I think it was a very strong game, a good worker placement game, but this one really did differentiate itself a bit more because of that potential to combo things and to have that domino cascading effect. So yeah, I'm really happy with the amount of game here in terms of how quickly the game plays and how pretty much how fast the actions are resolved. So yeah, very happy with the time frame, the uptime, just general tempo of the game. In relation to the replayability, I'm generally happy with this one. They have made an effort to give you 2 different types of books here. So you've got this slightly kind of juggled around version where all the different buildings and stuff are in different places and all the different bonuses are different, just to give you a different feel and to make sure you don't kind of go for the same strategy every time. But I would say that this is a reactionary game anyway. Despite all the plethora of choices here, you're always reacting to the dice available in the pool. So you can't just do the same thing every time, because simply that option won't be available to you. So I think games like this generally do hold up quite well in terms of their replayability. Interaction, it does simply stem back to what dice are available in the pool, and just people taking dice that you potentially wanted yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much where the interaction lies with this one. Yes, you can sometimes, as the first player, take a die simply to maybe try and restrict the other people getting the other side of that, or the other colour to that dice. So there is a little decision there, but I don't think that really does impact the game as much as maybe they originally intended. But I suppose with all roll and write games, they're generally multiplayer solitaire, and this one isn't really an exception apart from that that tension and that turn angst of people potentially taking the dice that you want from the pool. Aesthetically, I think the of course, it's just a piece of paper. The dice themselves are nice. They're nice and clear in terms of their symbology and artwork on them. And the sheets themselves are really well laid out. I think sometimes these roll and write games do have a scope to confuse the players, but I think this one is pretty intuitive. You can see where all the bonus actions are. You can see when you get rows and columns to get these additional kind of trigger benefits. So I'm actually really happy with the way these sheets are laid out. And when you start ticking things off, it does feel very satisfying. So no issues at all in terms of the production and artwork. And the kind of elephant piece here is quite cool as well. Despite the fact that you have to take it apart every time you put it back in the box because the box isn't quite tall enough. So it can have potential to get a bit tatty the more you play this one. And that's pretty much it, really. I suppose the setup time, if I want to talk about that one, is simply just get the book out and get playing. So really quick to get to the table and of course to put away as well. And I suppose one thing I really did want to talk about and touch on again is the fact how well this game progresses as you go about your game. You really do invest in your points here, start getting more and more as you invest in the different types of buildings. The more you invest in these goods, you're going to get more points. So you can really do ramp up the terms, and that kind of snowballing effect does ramp up as the game develops, and you're getting points faster and faster and faster, which all just adds to the tension of the race on who's going to win the game. So yeah, overall, Rajas of the Ganges I thought was an absolute delight. So happy with this one, and I love the fact, again, it's pretty much the whole experience and more of the original Rajas of the Ganges, just in a small box and on a piece of paper. So very happy with this one. This is certainly a top tier roll and write game. I think maybe even the best roll and write game I've played to this point. I'm not a huge savant on the roll and write genre, but I know I've played a fair few, and I think, as I said, this one is definitely one of the best ones in terms of those combos. It feels familiar, but it still feels different enough, and it does feel like it has its own identity here. And again, it just holds true to that original feel of the original Rajas of the Ganges. So if you like the original game, maybe maybe you want to try a different variation of it. Or maybe you're even on the fence with that one because it's a big box game, but you want the experience in a smaller box game, then I'd definitely recommend trying out Rajas of the Ganges. The Dice Charmers is going to stay on my shelf, and I think I would always choose to play Dice Charmers over the original one. Again, it's a smaller box, so it only takes a small part on your shelf rather than the original. And I'm very happy with this one. So satisfying, a lot of fun, and I'm happily giving this one my shield of quality because I think it's pretty damn great. So that concludes my thoughts on Rajas of the Ganges, the Dice Charmers. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you found it useful or at least somewhat entertaining, then please hit like and consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Additionally, if you wish to support the show, because I am a one-man operation and I don't get any support from publishers, then please consider backing on Patreon at patreon.com/chairman of the board, where you can back for as little as £2 per month. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.